Alright guys, welcome back to Blackacre Ranch. We're back here with the handling facility again, making progress. So we've got some gates today. Today is gate day, which means we've got to put all these gates up. Now, this isn't as simple as it sounds. If this was, the video would be like almost why bother. I would have thrown it into something else. You can get gates with different types of hinges. Ours are not all the same types of hinges, so we got to remedy that. So stick with us and we'll tell you what's going on and how we're going to hopefully remedy this. Like I said before, it is gate day, okay? I'm here in the buffalo handling facility, building this thing from scratch, right guys? So I've got a number of pens. We've got pen 1 over here, we've got pen 2, pen 3, 4, and 5, okay? Now all of our gates were sized to be 12 feet, and the central alleyway is a 10-foot wide alley. Now, our problem comes is that all of our all of our gates that were purchased, that we have available to us right now, were not all purchased at the same time. Some of them were purchased way back in the beginning when we set up our first pasture, because I was thinking I was just going to use all these big heavy gates all over the place with our wood posts, all right? Well, that's not the case. So, for example, the gate to our right is a 10-foot post, or a gate, and it is set up with wood hinges, wood-based hinges. So it already has the collar and it has the thread here, much like you've seen one of the hinge gates before. You drill a hole in the post and you go ahead and thread it. This allows some adjustability over time, all that stuff, okay? We didn't end up using them and we went to the store and bought some other ones, okay? So we have a collection of these that we have to fit in here, and we also have some for metal gates or metal hinges, whatever you want to call it. This gate here is 12 foot and it is set up for metal posts, okay? I always call it hinges, but it's posts. These is just a big flat plate, you weld it, and you're done. Super simple. If all of our gates were like this, we'd be done probably in 3 hours getting all 8 of the gates up, or 6 of the gates, however many we've got. But they're not. In fact, we have 2 that are like this, and 4 that are like the ones that I showed you before. So we had to come up with a remedy and a solution, and I'm thinking, well, how do I make this kind of a gate hinge? Do I not? Like all of that. And so I've just been racking my brain on it, and I've probably made it way more difficult than it needs to be. But I think I have a solution, so let's go show you what we got. All right, so what we came down to is finding a way to make our own hinge. We got to make our own flat bar, metal welded kind of hinge that we can go ahead and do just like the other one, okay? A couple ways you could do that for sure. You can go ahead and have 2 half circular pipes, weld them together down the seams right around the thing with its own thing on it. Like that's a solution. Yeah, any way you want to do it. But I found a guy who's online. I mentioned him in one of the last videos here for this build, was Austin Ross, who does welding. Well, one of the things that he does that I thought, hey, this would be super simple, is to make a flag hinge, is what he kind of calls it. And it's kind of like that, okay? It's a hinge that's just on some rod. And so I took some 1/2-inch flat bar, and it's 2.5 long, and my goal was to just go ahead and make something that was strong, durable, that I could weld, and wasn't gonna fall. Well, you know, after looking at some of those other metal hinges right there again, I probably don't need 1/2-inch, but I got it, all right? So it's gonna be what it is. So anyway, you have one side that is a flat bar that's gonna weld up to the vertical pipe, or the post in the ground, and it has this rod sticking up. This end is welded to the actual gate, and it slides over, and it goes. Wiggle, 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 okay? That is pretty much it, just those 2 pieces. Now, ignore the welding. Like I said, I am not a welder by trade in any fashion. If you're gonna embark on this, one thing you'll notice that like Austin had is on his is like a V channel set up where it kind of holds the rounded pipe or the rod, okay? And that's the real big trick, is getting that stable. So at first I was putting things here and this thing was wiggling. I just ended up welding. See, I'm gonna show you my ingenuity here, all right? That's what I'm trying to brag about, okay? It's not the weld, it's the fact that I came up with something on the fly that worked. Back to the regularly scheduled program. I put this thing here and I could push on it and it didn't move too much. I could strike against it and it didn't move, right? That was my famous little solution of scrap metal, and it actually worked a lot better. So If you think this looks bad, you see some of the other ones I got, all right? These aren't always in the center, whatever. It's redneck engineering, but I think it'll work. So we're gonna end up putting all of these hinges, these flag hinges, homemade, DIY, non-perfected from the store, and put them up there. Now, if you're asking, why did I not just go ahead and buy some hinges? Well, this is the reason. All of our steel posts are 3-inch, like I've mentioned before. We have this continuous panel fencing we put on the front. This is 1.25 inch tubes, okay, pipes. So really what we have is a lot of those hinges that we had before were just like a barrel hinge, and it had just a flat plate welded to it. And so you would weld it here and then weld the other half to the gate. The problem is we have 1.25 inch spacing we have to overcome. So I found some others that kind of had like a butterfly, kind of like this, but when you rotated it, the hinge would actually come back over the 1.25 inch. So really what's happening here is we have an offset of 1.25 inch, and I didn't see anything that was readily available that I could just go to Amazon. Even the welding store, it was questionable whether or not it would go over this. It would do 1 inch, but it wasn't sized to do 1.25 inch. So any of the stuff they also had, second reason, it was like 80 bucks a hinge. Not the set, the hinge. So I would need like 8 of those things. Well, that's like $600, guys. I got all that steel for probably, I don't know, 100? I don't know, something like that. I got 4 feet of 1-inch pipe, schedule 40, and 1-inch round rod, and then 2.5 inch by 1/2 inch flat bar. This little gnat is gonna die! Anyway, so I got that flat bar and just cut them all up into the little pieces I needed and did it. So it was so much cheaper if I just built it. I just need to make sure it's gonna actually last. But if you're wondering, that's why I didn't just go buy some set of hinges. Some things to keep in mind, this is a working example. We have already designated which one is gonna go to which, because on the inside, you'll see that there's that little rib and it wasn't machined out when it was formed. So we had to use a file all of that down, and to get it somewhat smooth so it didn't bind on the round stock. I've noticed that some of them that do good, I put it onto a different post and it doesn't. So they are all pre-assigned. I'm keeping these things set. These are all 2.5 inches, 2.5 inch above, 2.5 inch below, so they match. Sometimes my welds did not weld the plate flush with the bottom, and so if it's down a little bit, that would hinder that being down. It would contact. So you have to make sure it's correctly upright. Like that one, see how it's not quite super flush. So this one, it wouldn't let it rotate. Now, none of these things are really gonna be rotating that far. Like for example, if this is here, you know, it's not gonna rotate around the gate anyway. But depending on your use, if in your situation, just be mindful of the non-flushness and be aware that it will conflict right like that. All right, so let's get started with this. We've already taken off, ground off these guys on this gate. We have 6 total gates. 2 of them have the flat bar on it for welding already. The others are these types of hinges here that we have to cut off. I'm going to start with this 10-footer here. We're in the alleyway, 10 foot wide. We have one coming up here, and that's going to be the entrance into the funnel. We're then going to put another one probably just behind the camera here, just to make another staging area just in case. It's all about how the flow of buffalo work, and I'm going to just talk about that later. But 2 10-footers here, and then we're going to do a 12-footer back in the back area up there. So let's get welding this. I've already got things pre-aligned. We've already staged it. And I think I know where everything goes, so let's get welding it up. Now, I'll be honest, the biggest fear I have is making sure that these are aligned vertically, and I'm going to see if there's some way to maybe hopefully kind of correct that if they're this when I weld up the other half, but if they're tipped, this could go south real quick. Okay, we've got top and bottom on. Come to find out, this tubing is not very thick. So I actually did burn through it. I had to fill a gap and fill a hole over here, right there. But otherwise, now let's get these flag portions of the hinges on, and hopefully this thing holds. Moment of truth, guys. That's not bad, actually, guys. Now let's swing it front and back and see if it swings all the way. Okay, that's about as far as it wants to go because it's hitting right there. All right, let's go the other way. It's getting a little snug. This isn't good. Oh, you suck. All right, guys, after a lot of deliberation and looking at this, we got a couple of things that are of issue. For one, this pin right here is not out far enough, so that way this sleeve is actually too far in behind this guy, right? So that's the first problem. Second problem is the clearance right here. It's like 1/2 inch. So the solution does not involve removing this guy. I'm not going to do it because I just really don't care to do it. I don't have any more of this. So if we can just extend where this guy is outward, but not affect the clearance down there, we should be okay. So what I'm going to do to get more flat bar is I'm going to try and cut right down this guy, the seam, and then use the bandsaw later and cut this tab off of the sleeve portion, and then use that after I cut the pin off to weld to the end of here and extend the pin out further. I have more sleeves that I can cut. I'd weld a new one right along the inside edge right there. So that's the crazy idea. We're gonna give that a shot. I hope that made sense. To help us out, we're gonna reset up our stands down here. We're gonna put this in, raise it up, and just give it enough to support so I don't have any extra tension when I'm cutting up here. And then I'm gonna actually use my Sawzall. Use that because I cannot get the bandsaw in this little gap area. Anyway, let's just get cutting and kind of see how this rolls out. None of these guys are straight. I have a feeling this may not work. Let's keep going, but these guys are kind of a little squampus. All right, guys, I'm not super pleased, and this has probably been hours that I've not been super pleased. So, cutting all these things off, obviously it cut through, and way cut through at the bottom. This is turning out to be a nightmare. I'm pretty pissed, like, just telling you to be honest. So after sitting around thinking about it, fuming, driving on the freeway or highways, just trying to get supplies, I thought, you know what, I need some extra material. So this is what I've got. We've got 3 options. Flat bar, square tube, and then square bar. Well, this is 3/8, this is 1 inch, and this is 1/4. So when you have enough different sizes, I guess you'll find something that works. So here's our plan. I'm gonna take this, and I'm gonna cut maybe like 1 inch or so, and I'm gonna weld it to the back of my gate. Okay? And that's gonna reinforce and close the hole. These guys, the problem with this is if I had the hinge, the sleeve, this overlaps this. So I would have to gap it anyway, and that's why I needed still some of that tab. That 1/4 inch will do that. If I have my 1/4 inch here, and then I put this here. It gaps it enough, okay? So that's gonna be my solution. I'm gonna scab this with some of the flat bar, and everything's great. Now, what are we gonna do about the hinge? These are cut obviously not straight, and I was gonna just put flat bar front, flat bar back. My only way to weld to the back side is through this gap, and it is very restrictive on the exact position of that. So this, I would have a very limited area here to come around, and it's gonna be a nightmare. So I thought, because these things aren't angled right, what I'm gonna do is cut off maybe 3" of this, weld it to here. It's gonna come out 1 inch, gap it out away from this enough, and then put back on the same pin with the same slope, and this will stay vertical just like it was before, because I'm just keeping that same, this is going to be slanted anyway, that kind of stuff. So I could use this. This is 3/8 inch round stock. It's just not as wide as the tab that's already up here, and so I might do 2, but it also doesn't quite gap enough to get beyond this, so I might have to double them up, and I'm just not doing that. So this guy's the winner. We're gonna cut these suckers, weld them on, weld the pin to the same slope from the cut with a Sawzall, and we're gonna fix that gate, and then we're gonna see if it works. The gate will probably never fully articulate around. It'll probably hit that fence on the other side. Life sucks. So be it. We just don't swing it the opposite way. It'll only close this way. Alright, so that part's done. I thought it'd be kind of cool laying down like that, but spark landed inside the ear. That sucks. So, alright, these guys are on. They're hot. Straight as can be. Let's get them up there and see what this fits like. It's off. It's holding. The welds suck. I don't really care. I'm super not thrilled. This is part of that ranching stuff where you have to just improvise. And this has fought me every step of the way. I don't care as long as it holds and it opens. So if I move my gloves, this is the gap. We lost about 1/2 inch or more. So that is one tight mother. All right, this is the, it's starting to get tight. I had put these guys, I reused the same sleeve and I just put this way so it didn't, because I didn't care if it opened. And the other one's the same way. So anyway, I think that's why it's not wanting to open this way. So I don't really care. It only has to go that way. It's starting to get a little tighter.
But it does open.
But it does open. It's not super level, but you know what? I don't care. It's done. It's there. It opens. I want to go on to some other gates. Let's move on from this fiasco and think of better days. All right, guys, we got them all done, okay? I didn't come back and film it because it's going to be dark, whatever, getting late in the day, and kind of not in the mood. Anyway, so we got them all up. This was the last one, the 16-footer. So let's see if we can kind of show this to you. All right, so this is the guy that defines this funnel. He's going to come here, he latches, he's all the way down at that end. So this defines this funnel guy. He's going to be latched. Everything looks pretty. Everything looks great. They're going to come into here, flip around. This is the gate that was the problem gate. This is just the other side. So it's gonna shut. And it technically would fit over here. This will be that staging spot where we're gonna put 2, maybe 3, depending on the size, in here right before they go through that squeeze gate. Right before they go through the alleyway and that gate right there. So, this guy opens miraculously. We got this other guy up here. He is hinged 24 feet. So it'll be a 24 by 10 area. This guy does not open all the way. All right. The way we had to put the hinges, I was not gonna cut anything off. I was not gonna do anything else different. I just slid everything else out. If it didn't open all the way back to forth. However, this is only gonna be wanting to open this way. So in operation, when the buffalo come down, they're gonna come down here and at some point they're gonna kind of stop. I don't know where that's at. So it could be right here, it could be in there. Whichever one, we can throw the gate, this one, or we can throw the gate, this one, and go all the way out there, okay? So that's the 2 gates here. You'll notice that we have 1 gate at the far end. That was a normal weld-on hinge like we already had with the gate. And then we had this 12-foot gate we welded on. This defined it in here. This can open this direction or the other. And then at the far side, we have the 16-foot gate over there. So, pen 5 is done with the gates. The alley's done with the gates. I hope this all makes sense. And live and learn frustrating parts of welding and just modifying and fabricating, I guess it could be. So anyway, this got done. All the gates are hung. Now the only things I do have left, and I know I have them, is I need the cross pieces to go across. Mainly the only one that really has an issue is that second internal alley gate right here, because it's always going to be pivoting in and out, and so it'll wiggle. Otherwise, everything else should be hinged in line, its normal resting position, in line with one of the continuous panel fence lines. And with that being the case, they're not going to wiggle a lot. We can probably work the animals with this if we have to. We're going to try and continue on getting stuff done, but we'll see how this week turns out. Otherwise, I'm going to wrap it up, guys. I'm done. I want to go home. Thanks for watching. If you have any tips, let me know. I'd love to be able to show you a better close-ups of the weld. I don't know how to do that. So if you guys know how to do that, lenses or something like that to show welding through the camera, let me know. Otherwise, like and subscribe, guys. I'll talk to you later. Bye.